Hi everyone. I'm going to cover another movie from 1972, part of my year-long series of films from 1972, 50 years ago. What were films like then? How do we look at them today? These are the final stages. I've only got one more video, I believe, after the film I'm covering today, which is a French film called We Won't Grow Old Together. And it's directed by Maurice, starring Marlene Jobert and Jean Yan. And you might know Marlene Jobert from Jean-Luc Godard's Masculine Feminine, but American audiences, for a nice contrast, if you're a Charles Bronson fan, you might know Marlene Jobert from Rider on the Rain, a Rennie Clement movie, which I think was made a couple years before this. Jean Yan was also in a Godard film, Weekend, but probably American audiences, Claude Chabrol fans know him from his appearances in Chabrol films, especially La Bouche, which was also, I think, a couple years before this. And I've never seen a Maurice Pialat movie before. I've heard they're pretty grim, and I'm not always, I have to really be in the mood to watch a grim movie. But after watching this movie, I think I want to look for some more of his films. This is only his second feature film, and it's a relationship movie. It's about an older man and a younger woman. They've had a relationship for 6 years. They've not married. We're basically seeing sort of the last 6 months of this relationship. There's no spoiler. We won't grow old together. This is right in the title. And he's around 40. She's about 25. So she was very young. She was like 18 or 19 when the relationship started. And the man, and Marlene Jobert's character called Catherine, and Jean Yan's film called Jean, he is still married, and we see his wife, and they are sort of separated. They've been going their own ways, but they still have a very close relationship. She cares very much about him. He seems to be a very strange, vulnerable kind of man, prone to outbursts of emotion, but she seems to really understand him. And but she is cultured, whereas Catherine, the Marlene Jobert character, is not. She comes from a working class background. Jean comes from a more cultured background, but also he's working in television and movies. But Catherine tries her best. She tries to get more culture. We see her reading books, and they become increasingly ambitious type of books to read because she believes in the relationship. But the focus of the film is just, there are other characters, but basically we're seeing this relationship in a two-shot, tight framing. Many of the scenes are filmed in automobiles. Some are on park benches. We see them on the beach, but it's always focused on these two characters. And it is a kind of film where we're seeing their most private moments. She is somewhat demure. She's younger. She is impressed by the world that Jean lives in, the world of Claude Chabrol. He's even mentioned by Jean Yan as I introduced her to Chabrol and a couple other directors, but he's dismayed that she doesn't belong in this kind of world that he's living in, but he can't let her go, and she doesn't seem to want to be let go, even though he is very boorish and at times even brutish. And part of the fascination of this movie, not only that we're seeing very private moments of a relationship that can make us feel uncomfortable just because they're so private, but each scene oftentimes will end abruptly, and then we see another scene. Time has passed by, and this argument that ended the last scene, now all of a sudden they're back together again, and they're having fun together, as much fun as this character Jean can have. So it becomes a rather fascinating. I was just mesmerized by this this austere style that Maurice Pialat adopts for this film, and you very much feel that this is something real. This is not something made up. The way the characters are performing these very precisely and very much defined characters. And we learn in the supplements that this is totally autobiographical by Maurice Pialat. There was a Catherine in his life, same age group. He's replaying many of the scenes from that relationship, a relationship that haunted him. Now, Pialat was 43 years old when he made We Won't Grow Old Together, and he had only made one other feature film. He was making documentaries, which we see Jean Yan also as part of his work life. So it's very much in the tune more of today, I would think, than 1972, in the sense of auto-fiction is the big, searching for one's identity, the traumas of relationships, but there's no closure here. There's no healing process here. There's no therapy. This is just two characters pretty much on their own, trying to work through a very complex sort of emotional roller coaster ride. And John's boorish behavior really ticked off the actor, John Yan. He did not want to play this part. And once he was, as these scenes accumulated, he just objected, and he was giving Pialat a great deal of problem. We learned this from Marlene Jobert, and there was an interview with Jobert in the supplements. He thought the film was terrible, and the rushes were not pleasing the producers as well. So there was a moment about halfway through where they were just going to pull the plug. The leading actor didn't like the film. The producers were unhappy with what had been filmed. But Marlene Jobert did not. She really liked this film. She thought she was in something really new and different. She had been in Godard's Masculine and Feminine, but her other work was all very commercial. So here she was playing a very strange role, but of a character that seemed very real to her. And she really liked Maurice Pialat's style and everything. It often sounds improvised, but she said everything was written down. They did no improvisations at all. Now the irony, of course, as it often is that Jean Yan wins the Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival that year, but he still downgraded the movie. He said, "Well, if I was good, it was purely by chance because I didn't like I didn't like the movie. I didn't like the character I was playing." And even stranger enough, the producers were not happy with the results, but it got noticed at the Cannes Film Festival, and then in France it became a big hit. Never released, though, in the United States. It did play at the New York Film Festival in the fall of 1972. Never released. So this is a 2014 Kino classic release, and this is the first time it's ever been on any physical release in the U.S. I don't ever remember it coming up in repertory theaters, or obviously it was never on physical release. Now, Pialat went on to direct some more very successful films that were released in the United States, including Under the Son of Satan. I think he made films. He made a number of films with Gerard Depardieu, Sandra Bonnaire. I think he made one with Isabelle Huppert as well. I always passed them by because I heard how miserable. This is a study of misery, and it's humorless. But I caught on to this style and the mood and the tone of the film. Didn't take me long. So on the supplements, we get this really good interview with Marlene Jobert, and she didn't have the greatest career going forward. She is the mother of Eva Green, actress, contemporary actress. But boy, she really understood this movie and the character she was playing really well. Then there's a little video essay by Alex Ross Perry, which is okay, I guess. And if you've ever seen I think his last film was Her Smell. If you've ever seen that film, you can understand the miserableness of that film of that film and connect it to Maurice Pialat's works. Then we get a essay. You get a tiny little booklet. This is Marlene Jobert. Really beautiful and distinctive look about her. The red hair, freckles. But you hardly ever get an essay included anymore in a keynote release. Nick Pinkerton, really outstanding essay here. So again, a study of misery that to me was pretty much fascinating. Maurice Pialat, Marlene Jobert in her interview says that Pialat was the kind of man off screen that could never be happy. He didn't think his work was very good. He didn't think this movie was very good. He was told, no, it's terrific, it's unique, it's very distinct and individualistic. But there was another movie that was released that I think the same year. I don't know, I can't give you the French title, but the American title was The Mother and the Whore by Jean-Marie Eustache. A film I saw in the movie theaters in the 70s that had an unbelievable impact on me, and it disappeared. But it is coming, his estate has now agreed to release the films. I think they're going to be playing his films, including The Mother and the Whore, which is like a 3-hour movie, much the same study of misery of young couples' relationships. It was starring Jean-Pierre Léaud. But Pialat says, oh, that was such a better movie. He did so much better. And perhaps he did. I mean, it's Eustache's masterpiece, considered his masterpiece by most people, and hopefully we'll get a chance to compare the two sometime this year. But I'm definitely going to be seeing some more Maurice Pialat movies, and I can't give it a higher recommendation than that. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.